Thank you for being here today.
You're welcome.
This is Gwen, and she's super nervous. So when you guys listen to this episode, leave a really nice comment and rate her really highly, because she is extremely nervous about doing this. So the reason I asked Gwen to be here today, because I wanted you guys to hear her experience. She's a former client of mine, and I'll just go ahead and tell you now that she's also my mother, but she's one of the very first clients that I had. What, about 9 years ago now?
Yeah,
or
10
so?
years in September.
Okay, so almost 10 years ago. And there's some significance to that. One is she was one of my very first clients. Two is she resisted becoming a client and said no for probably 6 or 8 months at least, saying, I've lost weight on my own. I know how to do it. I know how to eat healthy. I can walk. Yada, 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 all the time that she wasn't losing any weight, doing all of those things.
I was gaining weight.
Oh yeah, she was gaining weight. So she said, no, I don't need this help. I don't need the support. I don't need the strategy. I can do this on my own. I already know how to do it all. And I hear that all the time from you guys. And so I wanted you to hear from her what that ended up getting her, and finally when she said yes, what she ended up being able to do. The other reason that I think it's important for you to hear her story is she was in her early 60s when we first started working together. And just kind of a little bit of context around that, because she is my mom and I know what was going on with her. She had a number of serious health issues, including brain tumor, rotator cuff injury, that's also menopausal related, but I won't go down that black hole today. Had rotator cuff surgery and had gained an extremely large amount of weight. I saw her getting old right in front of my face. Like, I kept thinking my mom is acting like my grandmother, who was in her 80s when I was thinking of it. There were things like you were falling down, walking out of the grocery store. You had fallen down in my driveway when you were visiting me. And so her balance and equilibrium was off. She was just like getting older. She was not, you weren't as healthy. You were gaining the weight, but you also seemed to like start acting like an old person. Like you were walking with trepidation. You were like being cautious when you stood up, things that just didn't feel like they fit with where you were age-wise. And it worried me, because I thought, like, my mom's getting really old and she's gonna die if this continues. On top of just like the unhealthiness of like how much weight you had gained, because at that point it was probably what, over 100 pounds or so?
Well, I cheated the scale because those were the days where you had a dial.
Oh.
So I knew how to stand on it to make it way less than it really was.
And that changed the fact, right?
But I weighed even at standing on it, to make it like that, it was around 240.
Okay, so she gained a lot of weight. And so in her mind, I know how to eat healthy. I can walk. I've lost weight doing that in the past, seemed to make sense, except that it wasn't working. And she was hard-headed too, right?
Yeah.
It's hard to admit that you need help.
Yeah. Well, it was hard to admit because I felt like I could do it myself.
Yeah.
And
you had done it before.
I have, yeah. I've always, long time ago, I told my mom I was the lady of 1,000 diets.
Yeah.
I knew them all, including the hard-boiled egg, all of them. But I always gained it back.
Yeah.
And I never felt good about it. I'd lost the weight. I could wear the size 10 that I wanted to wear, but then I was back up into the 14s, 16s, 18s, 20, 24.
And what she didn't realize at that time was, doing that over and over for years. Like, basically, some of us have dieted our entire lives and we've been successful. And that's part of what makes it difficult to understand that it's not going to work at this stage, is that it has worked in the past. But working, quote unquote, and if you're just listening to me, I'm using air quotes, working means you lose the weight. It doesn't mean that you were doing it in a healthy way. It didn't mean that you were losing weight in a way that actually changed both the health and the physique of your body, the composition of your body. You just saw the number on the scale drop. And when we do that over and over and over, we just continue to further compromise our metabolism. And that's the missing piece of education I think so many of us have when we're younger. Then we don't know what's coming with perimenopause and menopause. And when that stage hits us, then we're like, holy crap, like what I used to do isn't working anymore. And you don't understand why.
Yeah.
And even more importantly, you don't understand how to make it work.
Yeah, it was like hitting a brick wall.
Yeah.
It just slammed on me. And I had gotten where, well, first, every time I had lost weight over the years, I had like 4 sizes in my closet.
Yeah.
And I never had faith that I could get rid of all of those big fat
Yeah.
clothes because I figured I'd probably
Yeah.
be there again.
The cycle would
Yeah. And so I had my skinny clothes, my in between clothes, then my fat clothes,
Yeah.
and I just had no confidence in getting rid of them, and I'd spent a lot of money on those clothes,
Yeah.
because I worked, and so it got where, though, that really bothered me is I would size up a room when I walked in, and I wouldn't sit in a chair unless it had an arm on it that would help me get up. I couldn't get on the floor with my grandchild. I mean, when Emmy was little and we would want to read a book, she had to get on my lap. I couldn't get on the floor with her. And so there were things that I knew, that I was changing how I thought about how I could move and where I
Is
put
that
myself.
is that what the trigger was? Because I did ask over and over and over. I invited her, much like I invite many of you, repeatedly, because you tell me all these things are happening and you tell me that you have these goals and these reasons, that are really valid reasons outside of even just the weight. You told me over and over, no, 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 I can do it on my own. What was that the trigger? Like thinking about, the future and not being able to play with Grant? Like what was it that was like finally clicked and went, okay, I need help?
Well, the fact that I was not losing it. I mean, I would lose 5 pounds, but it took so long, and then I would give up. And I had set myself up where I wanted to lose 100 pounds.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I could
The goal.
lose 4 pounds a week. And so if I lost 4 pounds a week, that would be 20 pounds a month. And in 3 months, I was going to weigh what I wanted to weigh.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And so I had a timeline, that I planned to get to, and it failed really quickly, and then I love reading, and I would read a book about health. And one of them, I remember one time, even though it probably didn't say that, what I took away from that one chapter was, you're old and you're never going to get fit. If you're
Oh, yeah.
fat and you don't have muscle, you're just not going to, you get to a
Doomed.
point in your 60s that it's too late. And so I walked around for months going, it's too late for me. It's never going to work. I'm going to be fat forever.
Yeah.
And you were in my ear. And so finally one day in September, you came and said, just join up
Give it
with
a
me,
try.
give it a try.
Yeah.
And let me show you what to do. And so, and you said, there's a group, and I said, no, I don't
Yeah. Yeah.
share on groups. I don't do that.
Yeah. Can you relate? Yeah.
I don't
So
know.
so let's talk a little bit about that, because what I talk about with so many of you and all of the women that I talk with about their goals and their struggles and how what I have as a solution. And part of what I say to you very simply is it is strategy that's appropriate for the body that you have now, for the metabolism you have now, for the compromised, fluctuating hormones that you have now. So it's strategy, and it's the right strategy. But it's also support. So it's strategy and support that, very simply put, because there's so much more to it. But yeah,
the magic key.
Yeah, those are the two things that go hand in hand. And you were resistant to part of the support.
Oh yeah, I wasn't
group.
going to I was not getting online and talking to people. I didn't know. It
Yeah.
wasn't going to happen. Because I just like to keep to myself when I'm thinking. Like right now, I'm
Yeah.
not real comfortable with this. But you said, and I said, Lori, I don't write anymore. I don't do that.
Yeah.
And you were like, oh yes, you can. Just write. Blah blah.
Trust the process.
So
Trust
I did.
the process. Yeah.
And I mean, I just wrote a sentence or two.
In the beginning.
the beginning,
and mainly because I told her she had to. Like I told her, you have to do this if you're going to do this and you want to be successful. You can't cherry pick the parts. And I tell clients this all the time. And some of you are really, really hard-headed, like she is, and you think, oh, well, I'll take this piece of the solution, I'll take that puzzle piece, and I'll kind of put it together in my own little way, and it'll work for me. And that never works. And so what I remember telling you was trust the process. And, I had a little more leverage to like force her to, being my mom, but trust the process and just start small. Like just go into the group each day, one time, and share one small thing.
And I would say, okay, I did my workout today.
Yeah.
Okay, let me share, and then it got where I was really into figuring out protein. And I remember I used to drive to McDonald's and get 5, maybe 8 of those fruit parfaits with yogurt.
You guys listen up, because I hear this from you all
And
a
then
lot.
I'd line them up on my top shelf of my refrigerator and thought that I was doing really good because I was eating one of those.
Yeah, protein.
Yeah, it was protein,
Yeah.
and fruit, I mean, how can you? But then it clicked in my mind with what you were saying, that it had to be, healthy.
Yeah.
And so I went online and checked out the parfaits, and I was like, oh,
Yeah.
oh.
Yeah.
And so then I thought, well, I bet I can do this and make it better. And so I made my own parfait with fresh strawberries,
Yeah.
and Greek yogurt, and and I gave up the granola because I couldn't have granola in my house at that point and not eat the whole box.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so
you shared that in the group with other people.
and
It's
I
like
would
this,
tell,
it was kind
oh
of like
my
this
gosh,
aha, right?
oh my gosh, you guys, and so, and then I would take pictures, and some of the people were just so sweet, like, oh, you should, what would she call them? My photos were,
Oh yeah, like you should do a recipe book, which I've
Yeah.
still been trying to get her to do. But I think part of what I'm hearing when you say that is, one, sharing that kind of aha moment. It reinforced it for you. It gave you like a place where you could share that and help other people, because other women who were thinking the same kind of thing, oh, I'll buy whatever, and it's the parfaits at McDonald's, it's the variety of Greek yogurts that are and other yogurts that are marketed right for healthy, that are not healthy. And so you are sharing like this, oh my gosh, okay, now I see what you're helping me to understand about food, how that really played out in my life, and this small change that I could make. And when she shared that so it's like the content, the education, the information about nutrition that you thought you knew, and you really got the real information about it. So it's a small adjustment in nutrition that had a big effect on the nutrients that you were taking in. But in the community piece of it, sharing that aha helped other people to go,
and then they started doing it too. And we started seeing who could have the coolest meal that looked the best on the plate. And it was a lot of fun. And I realized too that chicken was my friend. I could eat a lot of, I could eat chicken for dinner many nights of the week, and
in different ways.
And I started.
Well, and those kinds of little nuances like that it's part of what we work to get you to understand in the program, because it's not like, and I want to point this out about chicken, because women tell me all the time, I'm not going to eat chicken and broccoli every day, and you don't have to.
I decided that too.
Yeah, it's about figuring out what works for you, but getting sound nutritional information that is the kind of nutritional information that you need to know because of how your body is working at this stage in life, which is totally different from the, quote unquote, I know how to eat healthy, because eating healthy in your 20s and 30s and even in your early 40s is not the same as eating healthy in your 50s and 60s, when other kinds of changes are naturally going on in your body. And so I saw you really embrace the community piece of it and become more of even a leader in that group, which did a couple of things in my mind. But I'm curious to hear, how did you see that help you change?
I found a voice.
Yeah.
I found my voice in how to make, because I wasn't going to eat a plate with broccoli and chicken on it either.
Yeah.
It just wasn't going to happen. And so I fell in love with rice bowls, and I would put a little bit of brown rice in it, and I'd put my chicken, and I would add all these other little things to it. so that every day it could be different.
Yeah. Well, and
Yeah.
that when you say you found your voice, it really empowered you to take a lot more control over the nutrition that you were
Yeah,
taking in.
it did. I knew I was leading that group, and I
Yeah.
mean, I knew because I was a teacher.
Yeah.
You know, I knew what was happening. I watched that happen.
And you became a lot more comfortable in sharing. And that, I tell women, like, embrace all the parts, don't cherry pick them again, but also like lean in and trust the process, because there's a method to my madness. The group component of that program.
I wouldn't have made it without that group.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, because you could have kept on nudging me. Kind of what you might call nudge.
and sharing like the educational pieces. But there's something to be said. It is just like in the classroom. Like, there's something to be said for, you learn it from the teacher, right? The coach, the mentor. And then you take that in and you try to use it. And then you share a little bit different twist on it with other people. And every time you do that, you kind of comprehend that information in a little bit different way. But at the same time, when everyone in the group is doing that, you're learning not just from the teacher, but you're learning from each other, and it's reinforcing that information to be much more like to translate into your real life. It's not just, oh, I have to eat this way, or here are the rules for how I eat, but it becomes right.
Yeah, there were no rules. It was just, I would read a recipe and go, no, that's not, that's not good enough,
But it became, and this is what I see, like I talk about the light switch that goes on. It becomes just this, it's not there are no rules because there are no rules, but there are no rules because it's not like I'm trying to follow a list of rules. It's just, this is how I eat now. It just becomes part of who I am. And that's a process.
It is, because I always thought it was a deadline. I always had this thing. And I, somewhere in that first month or so, I don't know when, I made a switch in my brain that this wasn't going to be, oh, I'm going to do this for, 8 weeks and I'm going to lose so many pounds. It was, I really like this. This is changing how I feel about food for the first time ever. I mean, I was the person that would, if I lose 20 pounds, I'll go eat a hot fudge sundae. That's going to be my reward.
Yeah.
I mean, that was...
So food...
was like my reward.
But food in your mind like took on a whole different meaning. Yeah. And I think that lends itself to talking about another part of the program that's really comprehensive, because there clearly we address food, we address fitness, and we do it from a metabolic standpoint. But another huge piece of what I think makes women successful in our MRS program is that it's not just physical. There's a mindset, huge comprehensive mindset component. And so when you're talking about like how you're eating differently, it also kind of bled over into like how you thought differently, like your approach to like the entire process and the reason
that was
for
what
doing
was powerful. That was the change. And that's why it's lasted for 10 years almost. Because it's, I mean, if I eat something now, I don't want to eat that. It won't make me feel good. And it's not I don't feel deprived. It's what I want.
Well, and how did that kind of mindset shift? Because you said when you came in, like you would stand on the scale and kind of try to trick the number on the scale. And so it was very much for you in the beginning about the number on the scale and losing 100 pounds or 80 pounds or whatever that first goal that you set out was. And I remember talking to you about how that's part of it, but that can't be the ultimate goal. And throughout the 12 weeks, I work with clients on this like daily, just about. And it's one of the biggest keys to that switch is changing your mindset and your thinking around why you're doing this. And I want you to respond to this, but it doesn't mean that you don't get to the goal, because you lost over 100 pounds. But, and let me say this. So she lost over 100 pounds in 10 months, which is really, that's pretty rapid. Like that is, when you look at it holistically, that's pretty quick. I know when you're in it, it doesn't feel like it's quick.
It didn't feel bad though after a while.
Well, and I think that lends itself to like why. So what was the mindset shift? What got you to like, how did it feel to stop focusing on the number, which ironically, is exactly how you got to the number of, that number of lost pounds. You got to it because you stopped focusing on
Exactly. It didn't matter anymore.
it. Yeah.
But also, every Sunday after I weighed, I measured.
Right.
And,
Yeah.
my thighs used to just be humongous, and I would watch them shrinking,
Yeah.
and then, of course, I saw my clothes falling off of me, and I
Yeah.
had to get smaller, sizes.
So
But
those measures
they
of
spoke
progress
long.
changed.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, measuring, even there would be a week that I would only lose, 2 pounds, 3 pounds.
Yeah.
But I
Did
would,
that feel like a failure?
yeah, at first,
Okay.
because I was like, oh, wow, this isn't going to
Only.
work.
Yeah.
Only 3 pounds? Oh,
Yeah.
my God. But then I would measure, and I would have lost 10, 12, 13 inches.
Yeah.
And
All
I'm
over.
like,
Yeah.
oh, wow,
Yeah.
And so the the tape measure, I hung it on a hook on the back of my door.
Yeah.
I mean, it was my friend, and I had fat clothes that I had stretched
Yeah.
out so I could see them and see them change,
Mhm.
and I've taken pictures of myself since, with the pajamas that I wore that,
Two people could fit in now.
or maybe
Yeah.
3.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, but it was a process. It
Yeah.
was just always, at first, I can remember driving out here and meeting you to pick up something that I'd bought at World Market. And I was driving home, and one of my favorite, and it was only a week or two into the thing, and I was trying so hard. And I love to stop at Starbucks and get one of those fancy sandwiches and one of those really fancy drinks. And I was like, I'm not going to do it. I'm just not going to do it. I'll be sorry if I do it. Don't do it. And I remember passing it by and going on home and eating my yogurt and fruit and thinking, I'm really glad I did that.
Yeah.
And it was a process even in the very beginning that, changing my habits, that at first that's
Yeah.
what it was. But then after that, it became finding the food that made me feel good,
Yeah.
that made me healthy.
Mhm.
And and I've said this because my husband is so bad about, he wants to go on these crash diets. And I keep telling him, that's not going to work. But I mean, I can go and sit with him somewhere and say, you see that lady right there?
Oh my gosh.
She's not losing weight right.
Yeah, well, and you can, now I can spot people like that too. And you do learn and you understand that one of the things we don't focus on is weight loss. I talk about weight loss because for us, I mean, I think women who are, 45 to 60, 65, and even mom is in her 70s. She's going to be 75 in a couple of months. But those of us kind of in this generation, we really got the message ingrained in us that this is about a diet culture. This is about losing weight. And so we continue to talk about losing weight. And really what we did in our 20s and 30s, when those of us who dieted all the time, I remember being on diets as young as I told you earlier today in grade school, like first, second grade. And those were focused on weight loss. The scale was really the only measure of success and progress, right? And what we know now is how unhealthy that is. But we also know that fat loss is what we're after, and we want to tone it. And women will tell me, I want to look fit. I want to have more tone. I want to, and what we don't understand typically, and what we do in our program is we get you to lose fat off of your body while we're building the muscle. And that is what's going to change the way you look and feel truly. 20 pounds, you can lose 10 pounds and and easily. I could tell you a trick to lose 10 pounds fast and super easy, but you're not going to wear clothes that are any smaller with that 10-pound loss. You're not going to feel any better. At our age, you're definitely going to look kind of gaunt and, and just like pitiful. And you're going to have that skinny fat kind of look the more you lose weight in that way. When we get you to lose weight, you're doing it in a way where you're losing fat off of your body. And that is hard in the beginning because women don't see the number drop as fast.
Right.
But
my body was changing though.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, and I caught on to that,
Yeah.
and as it progressed.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started going on internet and finding photos of women at my age
Yeah.
and seeing how toned and fit they were and what they were doing. And
For like
I,
goal pictures.
yeah, and I mean, I had a couple that were my kind of my role models.
Yeah.
This is, because a lot of the girls in the group were a lot younger than I was. And
Mhm.
so I wanted somebody that I could look to as a role
Yeah.
model,
Yeah.
and I didn't want big muscles or, broad
Yeah.
shoulders
Was
or
that healthy
muscles
look?
bulging. Yeah, I
Yeah.
wanted that slim, trim, strong look.
Yeah. Well, and let's speak to that in terms of like now, because you are, and another reason I wanted to talk with you about this and have everyone here is because you are older than a lot of the women that I work with. Most of the women that I work with anybody that's over 40. Most women are in their 50s, and then I'll have, some clients who are in their early 60s. And I think it's difficult for us to like think future forward. It's difficult. We know what we want now. We know how we want to look, how we want to feel now, but it's difficult to think about how this is beneficial to you in your 70s, 80s, right? And so a lot of times when women come to me, you tell me, I've done this, this, and this, and I've lost weight. I mean, some of the really popular things right now, Optavia, however you say it, a lot of the semaglutide kinds of shots, whichever version of that you're on, and and any number of other kinds of programs, they've gotten weight off, but they'll say, I know it's not super healthy, but it's hard to look down the road and go, okay, I want to do this in a way that not only do I lose the weight now, but what does that mean for me 10, 15, 20
Well,
years? So
you
what?
say to yourself, I'm just going to lose 20 pounds and I'll be happy.
Yeah.
Well, you lose the 20 pounds, whatever way, but nothing else has changed. And so
Right.
you gain it all back and more.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. And so when I got to in my 60s, I started thinking it's too late for me. I have blown it. I mean, I'm going to be old. I'm
Right.
really, and I mean, I knew I was acting old. I knew.
Which is not true, but there's a bit of truth to it. I mean, it becomes more urgent if you don't do something to change it, and it can be more difficult the older that you get. I mean, I'm open and honest about that with women, but you can make the change. And so, how has making that change in your 60s changed your 70s?
Oh, well, I mean, I'm not going to say I can do anything, but I can do the things that were important to me. I can get off the floor. I have fallen a couple of times. In fact, one time was not running, but walking too quickly out of my tiled bathroom and slipped.
Yeah.
And I caught myself so that I didn't fall. And I didn't even pay attention to the fact that I had done it. But the next day, my rib hurts. What did I do? And I didn't even remember.
Yeah.
Well, a week later, I did it again. I went, oh,
Yeah.
And then one time I was just really proud of myself. I lost my balance in the driveway on the rock kind of thing that we have in the island. And when I did, I started going down. And if somebody told me to do that, I couldn't. But instinctively, I was down.
Yeah.
And pulled myself right up before I
having
fell.
that core strength and leg strength.
Yeah.
And that's what, kind of the point of this is, I mean, we'll go places and people don't believe that she's in her 70s. She moves around like she's younger. She, is certainly a whole lot healthier. And she'd had a lot of, like I said earlier, in this episode, a lot of really serious, like brain tumor surgery, rotator cuff surgery. She'd had a lot of weight to lose, and even recovering, having had those experiences, now she still gets around. She, does pretty much anything. She does do pretty much anything that she wants. She walks, you
walk.
guard.
In fact, I pride myself in being able to, have one of those walking pads now.
Yeah. And a step tracker all the time, and you don't have it on yet. You better make sure. I don't know. You're wasting steps though. You're not tracking them. And now it's I mean it's just identity for you.
Yeah.
And I think a really important point to make is that even though she didn't make the change until she was in her 60s, it has drastically changed this stage of life, and will and into her 80s and 90s.
Yeah, now I have heroes that are in their 80s.
Yeah, exactly.
ooh, she's doing better than I am.
Yeah.
I got to step it up a bit.
Well, and I never like to hear that she's fallen, but I live, 3 hours away, and I don't worry that she's going to fall and be in a bathroom where nobody has found her. Exactly.
I can't get up.
Yeah, right.
I'm not going to need one
I've
of those.
fallen and I can't get up.
I
Yeah.
don't think I'm going to need one of them.
Yeah. And that, I mean, that's huge. And so what we do now, I tell women all the time, what we do in the MRS program gets you to the goals that you have now. You can get the healthy, improved health. You can get the fit look. We rehab your metabolism and get your metabolism working for you so you don't have to diet. You lose the weight. You change the way your body looks. And that's great. And absolutely, it's important. But it's also extremely important that the approach that we take to get you there is an approach that sets you up for a much, much healthy,
long, forever.
Absolute, and
It's a mindset that, and nobody could have ever. And yet, it's so funny because in the classroom, I taught kids who were struggling learners. I mean, they had struggled in school their whole lives, and it was a matter of getting them to believe in themselves. Getting them to, believe that if they just put a little bit in it, they'd get farther. And that's what that group did for me.
Absolutely.
Because it wasn't like, oh, I have to be A+ today.
Yeah.
I'm keep moving towards that, and and I saw that was the same process that I did in the classroom with kids.
Well, and it's why I talk about strategy and support. I will never sell an out of the box, like, here's your program and go off and do it on your own, because that simply does not work. That belief that you're talking about, that you have in yourself, that takes time to grow that and to be really confident and comfortable that it's not about just using the tools, it's about becoming the tools, becoming the identity.
You have to be little pieces of success along the way. Build your belief in yourself and your self-esteem. And as much as I've worked on that, did a master's thesis on building self-esteem in children, I was, didn't really have it myself.
It is different for you. And that kind of brings up another point too. When it comes to ourselves, many of the women that I work with, you were in a high level position, a professional career. Women that I work with are therapists, doctors, physicians, attorneys, engineers, in marketing, in all kinds of different careers in the health fields. We're people who oftentimes lead and help others. And so we have a really hard time accepting the fact that we need help.
Well, I could do it myself.
Absolutely. And so that mindset shift, that is such a huge part of the coaching component of this program, because you do need guidance and support to get to that place so that you get there in a way that it actually lasts.
It's that voice in your head that you have to change. It's, how you talk to yourself is so powerful. And I mean, as much as I was telling kids that and getting them to believe that and moving them forward, what I was saying to myself was,
well, knowing it and doing it are huge different kinds of things, and having a guide to help you to get to that place where you can do it on your own.
You have to take the first step, and that first step, I got nudged a little. A lot.
I nudge a lot of people.
And you're not real kind. There's sometimes, it's a kind nudge, but it's firm. You're very firm and very honest.
I am.
You don't mess around.
I will own that. And when I get on the phone with somebody
I'm not going to get any.
You're not going to get BS. No, you're not going to get BS, and you're not going to get a lot of slack. And the reason for that is, and I tell women, like I said, when I'm having a call, someone's like, hey, I want to talk to you about getting in your program. Well, you have to have a conversation with me on video first. We get on Zoom. And the reason is because I'm going to be really upfront with you about what what this protocol entails, what coaching entails, because it's not like going and buying some online workout and nutrition program. It is so much more comprehensive, and coaching is a vital part of that. And as your coach, I'm not going to just let you get away with, if you want to think of it that way, get away with a bunch of bullshit. I'll just tell you now. And I tell women on the phone this all the time. I will be the most brutally honest person in your life. It is my obligation to be the most brutally honest person. Now, does that mean that I'm mean? Does it mean that I'm critical? No, I do it in a very supportive way. I give you the hug and the nudge when you need it, but I also hold a mirror up and I get you to look really objectively at what the BS that's going on in your head, the BS that you're trying to like trick yourself standing on the scale with one foot lifted or whatever it is, the BS about how you're trying to trick yourself with your food. Like I call you on it and I kind of hold your feet to the fire about that, because I really don't believe that you can't be handled with kid gloves all the way through to make really hard change. Not really hard change that's going to last you a lifetime.
I used to say to kids, how is this working for you?
Yeah. And I say that to women all the time. How's it
and-
working out for you? Well, I know how to do it. I've done it before. Well, how's that working out for you now?
I laughed when you started saying it to me,
Yeah.
because I thought,
it's a little hard to hear your own words. Yeah.
You know, and so, you know, I was, but
and everybody's a little different too. You know, that's one of the things about a coaching program. You know, I get to know
Some
like what
people
it
can
is
take
you
it
need.
better.
Right. Some people need a whole lot harder pushing. Some people need a whole lot more caretaking and understanding. And it's kind of making that adjustment as I see you change too. Yeah. And now, you know, Mom was a client when it was just me. You know, I mean, like everything was just me. I did, you know, I was doing like all the things. And now I have a success coach who also, so you have me coaching you and you have a success coach who's helping you. So you really did it like long before. Everybody who's a client now gets so much more than you got, right?
I did it the hard way.
She didn't. But those were like, you know, that was kind of the 1.0 version of what I do with women now. And we've had several women who have been successful and stayed long term. Like I said, it took Mom about 10 months, which I think, you know, I mean, that's a star kind of pupil pace that she did it at. It does, oftentimes it takes a little bit longer for people, but adherence is a big part of that too. You were one who I almost had to kind of talk to about adhering too much. Like there's adherence to the tools and then there's kind of living your life. And if you're way too structured and you're trying to be too perfect, that's not going to be sustainable either. And so there was a little bit of that in her, but she's a really good example of what you can accomplish when you lean in and trust the process and you actually let it change your life. And I'm kind of rushing here because we're running really long, but I also want to talk very openly about this investment piece, because women tell me all the time, this is exactly what I need. This is like, oh my gosh, I know that I need this. I know that I need to do this. And they'll tell me a lot of real urgent reasons for it, including a lot of serious health concerns. And then they say, oh, I can't invest that much money. Yes. And so what would you say to somebody who says,
now, how you think about yourself is worth more than anything else in the world.
Yeah.
And that's really, you know, that is investing in yourself.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that it's really hard as moms and as people, you know, you're always thinking about somebody else, but I've gotten really good at finding things that are good for me.
Yeah.
And I never used to do that.
Yeah.
And this was the first change in my life.
Yeah. It does. It helps you make a lot of change. It kind of bleeds over into, I've had clients who have changed careers and jobs as a result of making this change, because that internal change that comes with that external physical change really does make you think about everything differently.
And it changes your whole life.
Yeah.
And so when you think about it like that, it's very minor. It was nothing compared to all the other things that I had bought.
Well, and on a very like just practical money to money standpoint,
I don't take any medicine.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, I take no medicine at all except what I want.
Yeah, you know? Supplement kinds of stuff.
But I mean, when I had to buy a supplemental insurance, the guy said, you don't, you know, you need the cheapest one there is. You don't need all of that.
Yeah. And then, you know, things that you are reducing the risk of having to experience hospital stays. You know, I tell women all the time, we're doing this in a way that when you fall down, you know, in your 70s and 80s, it means a bruise or a bump instead of a broken hip. So, you know, eliminating or greatly reducing the risk of hospitalization.
And that was one of my turning points as well. I was at the hospital having some kind of a X-ray to
Mhm.
get my shoulder fixed, and there was an older lady that came in
But this was before you lost the
right
weight.
before I lost the weight, but it was one of those scary things to me
But
because
for the grace of God,
it
there
all
go I.
well, they put her in the room ahead of me, and I'm sitting there waiting to be, in the back of the room waiting to be next, and I hear her just screaming and crying, and I thought, what are they going to do to me? What in the world? By the time they put me in there, I honestly had tears rolling down my eye. And he says, what's wrong? It's going to be okay.
Mhm.
Oh, no, no, no. I heard that lady.
Yeah.
And he goes, oh, no. He said, she had a broken hip. She fell.
Oh.
And she's just really upset because she knows what that means.
Mhm.
And I thought, that is life-changing.
Yeah.
My mother-in-law had a broken hip, and then after a couple of years she died. She never got better.
Mhm.
And I was like, that's where I'm going. That's what's going to happen to me.
That's my future. Yep. Yeah.
And
And it's hard to it's really hard for that to sink in. Like when you tell that story, we all hear it and know how
that's true.
Impactful.
Yeah,
right.
Oh yeah, I know.
But even at 55, I think, and a lot of the women that I work with are younger than me. They're in their 40s and early 50s. I think it's hard for us to see that and really like embrace it as I need to do something now.
It's kind of looking into your future and seeing yourself.
Right. But we always, well, we're talking about she's 20 years older.
I've got time.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
exactly.
You don't.
No.
You really don't.
Once, life can change in an instant. One small thing can happen to you. And so I think, it's just worth noting that this can drag, like the expense, because I probably hear that when women do not join the MRS program and it is a good fit for them. I would say there are two things that I hear most often. One is the investment, the money, and two is my husband. My husband doesn't understand. It's like my partner, right? He says I can do this on my own, yada, 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 yada. And both of those, I just call bullshit on both of them, because we talked about this whole idea of, you're saving money. In the long run, you literally are saving money when you do this. But the other one too is, how men are just wired differently. They don't understand how this impacts us. I mean, they are simple biological beings. They have one hormone and it gets replaced about every 24 hours. And so the fact that we have such a much more complicated physiological,
so powerful.
Yes, and the physical and the mental connection that they just don't have. They don't look in the mirror and see their, waistline that's expanding and their huge gut that's like flopping over their jeans and their balding head and go, oh my gosh, that somehow impacts my self-esteem. No, they go, ugh, she still wants me. Like they don't have the same emotional and psychological connection. And so relying on their perspective to make a decision about yourself is ridiculous.
He said it didn't matter when I was fat.
Yeah.
But it did.
Oh yeah.
There was I know that it did now that I didn't really realize then, because as I got more fit, he got more proud.
Oh yeah.
And it changed how he felt. And now even he's very proud to have me next to him.
Yeah. And that's a really good point, because we all say, our husbands are supportive. A lot of times when women are like, well, I need to go and ask my husband, or I need to talk to my husband. And I'm like, well, are you asking for permission? Or are you asking for his support? And she's like, oh no, he's really super supportive. And they are. I mean, they are. They all tell us, oh, it doesn't matter. You don't need to lose weight.
Yeah. Or he was super supportive because, well, this is just another one of those things.
Oh, yeah. A phase.
Yeah.
And just let her kind of do it. Yeah, but the reality is when you go through a journey like this, it strengthens your belief in yourself, like you talked about. It strengthens your mindset, and you are a better partner. I mean, you're doing it, I hope, first and foremost for yourself, but it really does impact everyone around you. And
you're proud of me.
Yeah,
he's proud of
absolutely.
me. Everybody. I mean, and that feeds your own self-esteem.
Yeah, it is definitely, rather than being a vicious cycle, it's definitely like a positive, a really super positive cycle. And you have the ability to impact, you know, you have impacted him. He eats way healthier than he did
Yeah.
before you went on this journey.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like, you know, oh, he joined. I don't coach men,
Yeah.
but I've seen that over and over with our clients. Their partners, their adult children, their high school age children, everybody in their life, their parents get way healthier as a result of the investment, time, money, and everything that the woman
goes
makes.
to the doctor and they'll say something to him about his diet or
Yeah.
whatever, he'll say, "Oh, my wife, she just cooks vegetables.
Yeah.
We don't eat preservatives."
Yeah.
And, you know,
Yeah.
I mean, so, you know, and it's not a boring. We have, you know, we eat really well.
Yeah, yeah,
So-
and enjoy it. It's not like
Yeah,
you feel
it's
deprived.
really very
Yeah.
pleasant.
So let's wrap up because we have gone really super long. You know, thank you guys for hanging in here. But so what would you say to someone who is sitting there going, "Oh, I can do it on my own." You know, a woman who's over 40 and thinking like, "I've lost weight before. I just need to have more willpower. I know how to eat healthy. I just need to do it. I know what to do. I just need to do it." Or even like I've considered doing this program and getting the coaching, but I shouldn't spend that money to do it. What would you say to somebody kind of thinking?
That's true. And I would probably say you're right. It's true. You can do it on your own, but it won't last.
Yeah,
You know, because the part that you don't understand, you can lose the weight on your own, but it's the mindset, and it's like any other program like that makes you change how you feel about yourself,
yeah, the
and makes you
sustainability
believe,
of it,
yeah,
internally
and
and
how you
externally,
think
yeah.
about food, you know, how you think about
Yeah.
yourself,
And how differently you need
how
to
you
eat too
move,
on a
yeah,
practical
your
level.
lifestyle,
Yeah,
everything. It's all interwoven where you feel, you know, it's something that,
it's almost hard to describe.
yeah,
Yeah,
I was just going to say that. It's a mindset that you're investing in that you don't
For
do,
sure.
you cannot get by yourself.
yeah,
And it's lifetime. How you feel about yourself is what you take with you everywhere
Yeah.
you go. You get,
yeah, you can't get away from it. Yeah, yeah. And what I hear clients say over and over and over, some version of what women tell me is, "I came to you to lose weight, but I had no idea how much more than that I would actually gain. I'm comfortable in my own skin, but I'm comfortable in my own head now. I'm comfortable, like I can set boundaries for myself. I stand my ground. I am, you know, I'm a better mom. I'm a better grandma." Like all of these things. And it's like, I had no idea. They'll tell me over and over, I had no idea how this was going to impact me when I actually started, because I really just wanted to lose
It's
weight.
that
I
voice
thought,
in your head
Yeah.
that changes your dialogue to not just you, but to everybody that is around you.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Well, thanks so much for being here.
You're welcome.
48 minutes later. So
Oh my gosh.
I know. I told you. I told you once you guys started, it would be.
Yeah.
You weren't nervous after you got started, were you?
No, not much.
Not much. Well, thanks so much. I
You're
know
welcome.
that this will make a difference for people
I hope
that
it
are
does.
that
I
are
hope it
listening.
does.
It really does. I've done a couple of these different interviews, and I'll do more of them too. But I think that there's just a lot to. I say it all the time. You know, you see me on social media, you listen to me here on the podcast, YouTube, wherever. I say it all the time, but it just hits differently when you hear someone who's gone through the process and been a part of the program. So thanks
Be
so
good to
much.
yourself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
be good to yourself. So thanks so much, you guys, for being here today, and I'll see you right back here next time.